Welcome.
Welcome one, welcome all to the greatest show of them all. It is the NFC East Mixtape. I'm RJ Ochoa, and that is Brandon Lee Gowton of Bleeding Green Nation. BLG, how's it going?
You left out blogging the boys.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Well, for the NSA's sake, I'm RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys. He is Brandon Lee Gowton of Bleeding Green Nation. This is the NFC East Mixtape, volume 174. The previous 173 intros all sounded very different. But you know what they say, the 174th time is the charm. At least that's the Dallas Cowboys front office's disposition. You can watch this show on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel or the Bleeding Green Nation YouTube channel. That way you don't contaminate your algorithms. We still don't have a podcast solution. We still get this question. We're not mad at you. We just are mad that we don't have a solution. But if you like the NFC East Mixtape, this is the only way to consume it. Every Tuesday, generally around 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. But we had a little bit of a scheduling snafu. But we're off and running here, BLG. Happy Halloween week. It's a big week for you. You love this holiday.
That is true. A little spoiler alert. I've been thinking about a song to pick for the playlist that is Halloween related. Do you have a favorite Halloween song, or does that spoil your pick?
I don't love the holiday like you do. Like and now, not now that I'm a father. I've been a father for a while now, but my son is
Grinch of Halloween.
No, my son is he's going to be 4 next month, so he's in this sweet spot where he's like really into it, and so I am way more excited for trick-or-treating than I think I've been since like I was a kid. So in that respect, I'm really pumped. But I was going to mention this at some point in our like meandering, stalling that we like to do last week. I don't have a favorite Halloween song, but I don't think this is a hot take. Any show or movie that is set at this time of year rules. Like that's a kind of you're starting ahead. If your timeline is set in October, it's fallish. Maybe it does take place at Halloween. I would offer that maybe that was why Stranger Things had the success it did at the very beginning. It's kind of hard to mess up.
There's a mystique, an intrigue, a mystery to it all. It's true. I can't think of anything that would disprove the rule. I think things that might not be amazing might be kind of like ironically bad, So, yeah, and then I'm biased too, so that's going in that favor. But yeah, excited for Halloween. Going to be doing, I think I mentioned this last week, I'm not sure, going to the beach for Halloween. Rachel's parents live down there at the Jersey Shore, so going to be going there for kind of like a belated birthday celebration thing. We're going to watch The Shining, go out to dinner, do some s'mores perhaps. So looking forward to that at the end of this week. And also just kind of, I don't know why this interests me so much, but for something about being at the beach at Halloween just seems very funny to me. So I'm looking forward to that.
I'm very happy for you and excited for you and Rachel, who we won't dox. But I asked you a question last week when we got off here that may have doxed her, but I was kind enough to wait. So
I don't even remember that.
Well, I'll remind you after this show.
Let's bring it up on the show.
but shout out to Rachel for that specific reason. I also I don't like scary movies. It's not my thing. I mean, like I can tolerate a little bit of spook. You know what I mean? Like the kind of October setting that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
I've never seen The Shining. Not my thing. I recognize it's a genre that a lot of people love. Enjoy it. I've got no qualms with you enjoying it. It's just not my personal cup of tea.
Well, honestly, same, which is funny because I like Halloween. I like the idea of spooky stuff, but I don't want it to be. There's a threshold. Like if it's too scary, then I can't do it. Like if it's like, especially if it's like gross or like deeply disturbing, I like a little bit of like silliness or like obviously like not too realistic. I don't like when it gets realistic.
Yeah, well, like Stranger Things is kind of that perfect, approaching the threshold for you. Kind of a meta version is okay, like Cabin in the Woods. You got to tolerate some of the graphic stuff in that movie, but it is meta and different. It's not just like your typical slasher sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So, but we are on the precipice of all sorts of holiday things. Lots of cooler weather is arriving for the United States, and so it's just the best time of year, unless you are a fan of any NFC East team that isn't the Philadelphia Eagles. In fact, Subhashish, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, says in the chat, I presume on the BGN side, how many times has it happened that all NFC East teams that lost miserably, and the one team that won handily? It's probably happened like we learned last week when we found out that all of them won. or whatever week it was. It's a little bit more recent than you think. It does help that one team beat another, right? That's kind of two birds, one stone. But on that note, let's get to it. The Philadelphia Eagles lambasted the New York Giants 38-20. I know that we're talking about the Eagles first here, but thoughts and prayers to Cam Skattebo. That was just such a bummer, like from a football fan standpoint. So hope he's doing well. And shout out to Big Dom for sending him the pizza or whatever it was, or taking it to him. That was really cool. The Eagles wore their Kelly green jerseys, maintained their undefeated mark in them since returning to putting them into operation, and really incited the Tush Push controversy, along with playing very well. It was kind of a trick or treats mixed bag worth of takes from the Eagles on Sunday afternoon.
This is the game that I think everyone was waiting to see from the Philadelphia Eagles in 2025, and especially in the context too of you got bullied, embarrassed, quite frankly, by the Giants the last time the Eagles played them. Was it like 17 days ago, basically.
Which is dumb, to be clear, but it did happen. The dumb that they played twice in 3 weeks, right?
Yes, very dumb. But I needed to see a good response from this team, and that kind of softened on like needing style points heading into the game when we learned late in the week that no AJ Brown, Cam Jurgens is out, missing some defensive starters as well. I was like, okay, just get the win. Like, I don't even care if it's pretty, just win the game. You can't, if you lose to the Giants twice, what are we even doing here? Like, what is the ceiling for a team that is losing to the Giants twice? So they didn't lose. And in fact, they won quite comfortably for the first time in all too long. They outgained their opponent for the first time all season long. Amazing.
It's an amazing sentence about a 6-2. Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, it was really encouraging to see. Running game finally got going. Saquon Barkley had continued to talk about it's getting close, and boom, finally happens. He has that 2024 kind of house call early in the game, and not just him, but Tank Bigsby as well, who the Eagles insanely traded for, and then talked about how good of a kick returner he is, and then he was a disaster as a kick returner. Didn't use him at all offensively until they realized he was terrible at returning kicks and put him on offense, and now he's a nice running back too behind Saquon Barkley there at the top. So things are looking good for the Eagles in terms of they have the bye week here. They're getting healthier. Should get Nolan Smith probably back after the bye. That should help their pass rush, which hasn't been amazing. Brandon Graham should be ready to play after the bye. Some other injuries they have. Guys getting healthier. Cam Jurgens, as I mentioned. AJ Brown should be back. So assuming he's not traded, which I don't think he will be. So yeah, I think it's really the vibes are pointing up. We finally saw a complete game. And I know the Giants are bad. Like you can qualify it by saying that. But again, they lost to this team. So, like, I don't care if they're bad. They went out there and they beat a bad team comfortably, which is what good teams do.
So I don't trust the Eagles as much as I do, say, the Lions right now, which is a difficult thing for me to say because, I don't really like the Lions.
That's fair to say. I have the Lions ahead of the Eagles in my power rankings. Yeah.
But I do agree that it was kind of the scratch all the itches game, right? Like, it kind of, it was okay. Saquon gets his big moment. Jalen Hurts has his big moment. You're able to thrive and succeed without AJ Brown and somewhat maybe quell that situation. Dallas Goedert goes off. You respond well. You beat a team that beat you. Like, again, I think it takes care. You wear the Kelly green jerseys. The vibes. We really as a society need to dial back the usage of this word. It's starting to annoy me the way the Lions do, but that's a whole different topic. And you get the bye to just kind of let everything bake in the oven and feel really good about. That's always the best feeling. I don't know how you can have a problem with. I think any problem with this is a problem that pre-existed or existed before the game. That doesn't mean it goes away. Like the AJ Brown thing, does he feel good? Is he upset? Like that situation is hard to predict. And I'm not trying to stir the pot, but like he has. The negative thing or a negative outcome would be he looks at that and says like, well, how come they can do it without me? Like, how come everything can work when I'm not there? How come I can't benefit like this? How come Dallas?
They did have a big passing performance against the Vikings, to be fair.
That's true. I mean,
when he was there,
but that was kind of his point, right? Was like, use me or whatever. What was the mysterious tweet?
Not using me. I forget. Honestly, I don't know. I honestly don't even know what that means. Using me, but not using me.
Something like that. So again, that's the most like negative outcome. And if he's traded, I think that would be stupid for the Eagles to do.
It'd be very stupid.
But if he's traded, at least that like this team has an enormous benefit of the doubt. if they trade AJ Brown, I will definitely kill them for it. But I will also, on some level, trust that they kind of know what they're doing. They've got that level of a benefit of the doubt.
Too gracious. You should not trust them. That's a disaster to me.
On the subject of Tank Bigsby, I saw a Seamus tweet I think it was during the game or maybe like right after the game, and it was something like, if you ignore
BGM contributor,
it was like, there's only one Seamus. Yeah, it's not, like he's on a first name basis. Seamus, Kobe, LeBron, same kind of thing. That being said, he had this tweet that was like, if you ignore literally all the tweets I've had about Tank Bigsby and only look at this one, it perfectly encapsulates what Tank Bigsby is. I think it was one of those like, everyone has hated on this move. It was so stupid. There was no return on investment. And all of a sudden, boom, this was brilliant, especially when Saquon came up limping or whatever it was. Like,
well, it was a dumb move. Again, if you're trading for him as a kick returner, which the Eagles pushed that themselves. They kept saying like, oh, he's not here to be a running back, just here to be a kick returner. And that was very dumb.
Eagles Girl 52, I like this, says it's Halloween time, stir the cauldron.
That's
not the pot. So that's really funny. I guess I will stir the proverbial cauldron. The Tush Push thing, I do think this is the day the Tush Push died. Okay. Well, I think we all agree that it's gonna be banned.
What about the push relates to how they're calling this?
Let me be very clear here that I don't blame the Eagles for this moment, right? Like, yeah. I'm not blaming. I'm not like
nothing is in their control.
Yeah, I'm not like this is Jalen Hurts' fault. That's not my take whatsoever. I also have a take that is you should have professional referees who are able to do this and whatnot. That's fine. And I actually think that forward progress is a horribly officiated thing in general across the NFL.
See, that's a bigger point and a fair point.
Right. So because like you can't like I don't know how well you watched. Did you watch all the Monday night game?
I watched a good part of it.
Okay, so as an example, it's not quite forward progress, but near the end of the game, Patrick Mahomes is pushed back on this sack, and Johnny Newton kind of throws him to the ground, and everyone was killing Johnny Newton for this, and I understand that, but I also understand the perspective of like, dude, he's just playing, like, and so like it's hard to know, it's hard to pull back or stop or whatever, waiting for a whistle. I mean, I get that that's a very difficult thing. I also think that the ambiguous nature of how difficult officiating it is lends to the Eagles' benefit in this moment. And it could theoretically lend, not even theoretically, it could lend to anyone's benefit who also did it. Like, I fully recognize that. But this was a fumble from Jalen Hurts that would not have mattered, to be very clear. The Eagles would have crushed the Giants no matter what. And so I say that I think this is when the Tush Push died because of all of the discourse that like this just is the final, like in a cartoon when the butterfly lands on the pile of rubble and it finally breaks. Like this moment in and of itself is not the most flagrant ramification of the Tush Push, but I do think it was the final straw that's going to break the camel's
But what do you mean? Like, okay, they banned the push part, they could still sneak it, and that same situation could unfold.
But you're benefiting, and I again would offer that any team can do this. You're benefiting from the idea of forward progress. We've seen different Tush Pushes or quarterback sneaks.
So how are you fixing that by like banning? What are you banning to fix that?
I think again, we know the NFL is pretty reactionary. I would offer something we both hated: the pass interference freak out adjustment after the Saints lost the NFC Championship.
Most pathetic things I've ever seen by the NFL.
It was, but I'm using that as not to equate that to the Tush Push, but to offer how reactionary the NFL is. And so when you look at, speaking of the Giants games, the 4 straight Tush Pushes, so these types of things just mounting and mounting and mounting, they're going to come up with a reason to ban the Tush Push. It may not be.
It's not going to change anything, though. What is changing? What are you actually banning?
I don't have an idea. To your point, like what would
I'm not getting mad at you, by the way. I'm just getting mad at the idea. Like what I don't understand what people want actually to change.
I agree.
You're looking at this and you're like, I don't like this. I'm mad at this. But then you're not proposing a specific fix that addresses the issue you are complaining about. That's not what people are doing.
I agree with that. And I think that the frustration isn't with the Eagles, and maybe not even is with the referees, but the frustration is the play, not always, and not even often, but has the ability to exploit the inabilities of the game. It exploits the.
So does the forward pass. Pass interference is incredibly subjective, and there's
I agree.
all the
to,
time.
To use the Chiefs as an example, remember
so is the intentional grounding. The refs have literally no idea how to call intentional grounding.
Would get mad at Mahomes for like baiting defenders along the sideline and then drawing roughing the passer. Or
it's not a unique problem. It's not like this one thing. The officials just don't know how to officiate it. There's so many things they don't know how to officiate.
I recognize we're not arguing with one another. My point is simply, and I think that the NFL world agrees, it is becoming so annoying to anyone that isn't, doesn't have
but why is it becoming annoying?
Because of these types of problems. I think that
then propose a solution that fixes that problem.
Hang on. I think that the 4 tush pushes in a row, the first Giants game, to be very clear, I think that was very lame and small.
It's an objective,
I know, but there's nothing wrong with that. Banning it for that reason is dumb. Right. I think that's silly. I do think that's the Eagles flying very close to the sun because this is a controversial subject. But at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to tush push it 100 times, and pick up 100 yards that way, go ahead. You're not doing anything wrong. But this does, and it's not the Eagles' fault, and I don't even think it's the officials' fault. Again, this problem ultimately falls on somebody who's way more qualified than I am. But this was an example of how it exploits a vague gray area that sometimes benefits the Eagles. And to their credit, anybody else could do it. I've said that from day one.
Yeah.
So I think banning it because teams can't stop it is lame. I think banning it because you don't like the aesthetic of it is lame. Although I think you're allowed to say, this isn't like for me, but it's still,
it's personal preference for sure.
Right. But this is exploiting, whether it's malicious or not. I'm not accusing the Eagles of it being malicious, but it is exploiting a gray area. And for that reason, I do think the NFL's finally just backed into a corner on it.
I just don't care because, again, I just don't know what you're actually banning to prevent
this from happening. This conspiracy theory from Christopher says refs are being told they officiated badly.
I've seen that suggested. I don't know. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I think the bigger issue and what people are mad at is referee incompetency. And that is not a tush push problem. That is an entirely different problem. They get plenty of calls wrong. It's not just these calls. There's more attention on these calls because there's a bias. They're coming in not liking the tush push to begin with. So then you see this other thing that you don't like about it. And now you're like, well, I really don't like it now. You're not coming into it with an open mind and being like, that's not what's happening. People are not giving it an honest assessment. And again, they're not proposing actual solutions. I've seen no one be like, well, I just don't know what you're proposing to address the issues that you don't like about it. And also, let me add real quick that the irony of, like, you just talked about forward progress being hard to officiate. That's part of why they repealed the rule about pushing your own players, because they said it was tough for officials to kind of officiate when a player is helping another player or not like that and calling that properly, which is why they did that, which opened up the gates for the tush push to come back into play. So now they're going to take that out again. Like,
I have a lot of thoughts on that. One, I agree. Like, how many times do we see just like a scrum, not even a quarterback sneak, but like a running back at the goal line, and then like the two, the offensive line, defensive line are just moving, and then like it lasts like 8 seconds, you know what I mean? And then they wind up in the end zone. Like, so how come that play goes forever, but this play gets called dead immediately? That's a collective problem, not a tush push problem. I agree with that. I also agree that so like you ban the tush push, right? Hypothetically. So the Eagles line up how they do. Like, is it a penalty? Like,
that's what I mean. Like, what do you actually?
No, I agree with that. I fully agree with that. So like they line up for a quarterback sneak. What are you penalizing them for? Like,
I will say I think here's something that I think, to be fair, that the NFL could look at. And so I think the idea that like you can't challenge forward progress is kind of like not great. Because I think there are clear times. It's not just limited to the tush push, by the way. There are plenty of times where we see like the classic example, and I dropped this on the Ringers Philly special, shout out with Shil Kapadia and Cliff Augustin on Sunday night after the game. I don't know if you remember this, RJ. This is like one of those plays that just like lives in my mind. I think it was the 2011 Giants where Ahmad Bradshaw fumbles against the 49ers and he gets stripped by Patrick Willis like almost instantly. And it's clearly a fumble. Like in the spirit of that play, that is clearly a fumble. But the ref blew the whistle, so they can't even review it. It's like, are you kidding me? It's a fumble. Like, and that would change the game entirely. And it's like, oh well, ref blew the whistle. So I think there's a bigger conversation to be had about how we're officiating forward progress in general.
There was this like similarly a Broncos Chargers game in Denver, like in 2008, I think, and Phillip Rivers threw this like very clearly backwards pass, like not need a review to look at, like, I mean, beyond obvious, and it landed, and this was like a one possession game, and the Broncos defender scooped it up and ran it in, but the play had been blown dead, and so it's like, I hate that. I agree with you. I hate it's like, oh, we blew the whistle dead, so like it's impossible. Like, or I also think like false start not being a penalty you can decline is really stupid. That's insanely dumb. So I agree. Like, there are certain things that are like, well, as long as we're like moaning and groaning, I also think it's dumb that you can be at the goal line and jump and just break the airspace of the end zone and then get the ball like punched out of your hands, but it's a touchdown.
Like the Saquon Superman leap.
Or like
against the Cowboys, right?
I always think of like Drew Brees. Like Drew Brees was like the master of like jumping and just like, again, breaking the airspace. But it's like, why do you have to just do that? But sometimes you have to get 2 feet down. You know what I'm saying? Like
Stafford against the Cowboys.
Yeah, like why can't, by the same principle, you send, I don't know, like the biggest, like AJ Brown to the end zone and have him jump up and catch it and literally inhabit the airspace of the end zone, but his feet land out of bounds. How is that any different from the Drew Brees thing? You know what I'm saying?
This is a lot of time spent on. Ultimately, I think the Eagles deserve credit again, just to get back to that. And they're rounding into form. And it doesn't mean things that were going wrong were like not worth criticizing before. And there aren't concerns. But Jalen Hurts is playing at a very high level here. He had his worst game of the season against the Giants in Week 6. He's looked really, really good since then. Hasn't been at like the biggest volume of attempts, but he hasn't needed to. He's been incredibly efficient, and he's throwing the ball down the field. So that's one thing I feel good about going into the bye. Also, Eagles offense has been more helped by scheme, I would say, than they were earlier in the year. They've made some tweaks. They're doing under center more than not at all. They did a lot of they've done their most 6 offensive linemen in the Nick Sirianni era these past 2 weeks. So like they are doing things, which is all people wanting to see. Like coaching staff needs to help out the talent in some level, and we're starting to see that. So it feels like things are trending in the right direction. I can say that as quickly as things felt bad and then turned around in 6 quarters, basically between the second half of the Vikings game and this Giants game. You never know if it'll go the other way, but as we are right now, and Eagles are 6-2, and they're looking down at the rest of the NFC East, which is not even close. Everyone else is below 500. It's a good spot to be.
Yeah, they look like they're going to break the curse.
I can't fully believe it until like I literally see it happen. Okay, I don't care.
Let's get to the second place teams. Eagles are 6-2. Cowboys are 3-4-1. Following their loss, they have yet to win consecutive games since weeks 4 and 5 of last year. So it's been a minute. This was their latest opportunity, and they failed 44-24, which is a way more generous score than it actually was in Mile High. Yeah. I've said all season long, the Cowboys offense has to be perfect for the team to have a chance, right? Because even when they are perfect, they've lost or they've tied. But when they're off, like they were, this was a very bad performance from the offense. You've definitely got no shot. I mean, you have no remote shot. Bo Nix gave the Cowboys a gift. I don't know how well you were monitoring this or if you were busy in the immediate aftermath, but Broncos won the toss, chose to receive. And Bo Nix threw an interception right away. It was crazy. It wasn't like a tip ball. It was just like an awful, ugly pass. And so you're thinking, okay, this is the recipe. You go down, you score, you give your defense a chance to kind of like the Eagles in the division right now, punch from up above. And a sequence of just bad plays, a Brock Hoffman false start, put the Cowboys a little bit behind the 8 ball. They had to settle for 3. And then Denver started cooking, and Bo Nix started cooking, and it was just a party. They were wearing their throwback uniforms. I need to pull this up, so give me a second.
Decent chance the Broncos sweep the NFC. So they've already beaten the Eagles, Cowboys, and Giants, so just the Commanders to go for them.
Yeah, that is definitely possible. So I'm looking for this. Bob Sturm had it in his write-up about the game, and it was really funny and really pathetic. So Sean Payton, I've said this before, and I said this on some of our shows leading up to this game. There are, to me, some coaches who, and maybe this exists for everyone, I'm just, Cowboys guy, who take playing the Cowboys personally. I think Ben Johnson is kind of one of them now because of the reporting as eligible thing and whatever. Like, he hates the Cowboys. Sean Payton is like the original
Aaron
of
Rodgers.
this. Well, I'm talking coaches. Sean Payton was a Bill Parcells disciple, coached with Bill Parcells on that famous Dallas staff that had Mike Zimmer and all those dudes, and was kind of thought to be. Look, it was a great staff. Like, you could make your jokes, but
no. I totally support the point you're making.
So I mean, I don't want to say passed over, but it never really worked out for him. Got the shot in New Orleans, and then was always kind of connected to it, to the job, obviously throughout the Jason Garrett era, and it just never worked out. And it just seems like he has taken the fact that he was never offered the job or just outright given a red carpet to the job very, very, very personally. Let me see. Oh, so this is Sean Payton's quote after the game. And this is from Bob Sturm Substack. I love the fact that we took one of the top defenses in football against one of the best offenses and won. That part is totally, benign, not really anything major. Sean Payton continued. And then the other side of it, it wasn't close. So I was proud of our defense. Like, this is an NFL head coach saying this. I mean, like, to say it wasn't close. And he's right. I'm not, mad about it or anything, but like, it does to me suggest that there's a little bit of like bad blood there.
You see that with the Eagles too in the 2014 playoff game. I think I've talked about this before. He had the buses circle the stadium after the Saints beat the Eagles. Just the other week when the Broncos beat the Eagles, they're like celebrating in the locker room. Sean Payton is having the buses go up and down Broad Street.
Okay, this is not about the Eagles.
Psycho.
It's not about the Eagles.
He's a psycho. No, I'm making it about Sean Payton. I'm not making it about the Eagles.
The Cowboys have, Brandon, played 8 games this season. They have allowed the opposing quarterback to throw for 3 touchdowns 5 times. The most instances in which this has happened against the Cowboys defense across an entire season is 6. It's happened twice, in franchise history, 6 different times. So they have 9 more games left. So I would imagine that at least 2 more quarterbacks are going to hit a hat trick's worth of touchdowns. They have allowed 30 points and 385 total yards 5 times out of these 8 games. They are just, an incredible mess on defense. And the most disappointing part about this was, I said many times, and I've been killing them all week since the game, this was a litmus test, and they were fully healthy from a relative standpoint, right? Like, you could certainly argue like DeMarvion Overshown's unhealthy, but like, as far as cornerstones, foundational players, they were fully healthy. They were coming off of destroying the Commanders. The vibes were high. They knew that this was an opportunity to go prove themselves and measure themselves up against, zero shade to the Broncos, but not even like, it'd be one thing if they were going to like Arrowhead to play the Chiefs or something like that. Like, what you could regard as the best team in the NFL or the modern day dynasty of the NFL. Like, again, you can get subjective with that, but just one of the top, I don't know where the Broncos are on your power rankings, but like the 10th or 8th best team in the NFL. Mm-hmm. This was your chance to say, we can go toe to toe. You didn't even go toe to toe. Like, you didn't even go like toe to hand. Like, you were so far and away. You belonged nowhere on the same field as the Broncos, and that you had all that positive energy and momentum going into it really underscores how you are just nowhere near any of this. And I know that it sounds like morale is really low. Something else I looked up, I love to dive into StatHead the day after games, even though it's super depressing right now. The Cowboys have 3 or fewer wins, obviously, at this point of the season through their first 8 games. It's the second year in a row where this was the case. They had not gone 2 years in a row having 3 or fewer wins through their first 8 games since 2000, 2001, and 2002. At some point through the first 8 games, they'd won 4 or more. Like, this is the first time that in consecutive years they have been this down, call it halfway through the season, which is why everybody's so fed up and done with it, because this hasn't happened in 2 decades.
Drake May leads the NFL in passer rating this season among qualified quarterbacks, 118.7. Leads the NFL. Cowboys defense this year is allowing a passer rating of 112 even. That's really, really bad, I would say. Not surprising, since we already know by now the Cowboys defense just does not have the juice. Probably could be using Micah Parsons. Oh, well. Cowboys currently rank 10th in the NFC playoff picture. Now, it's worth noting that like a team like the Falcons and the Vikings have played fewer games since they've had their bye so far. So, they could be ahead depending on how those games shake out when they all even up. But where I'm at with the Cowboys right now is that I said it last week. They needed to bank wins in this stretch, and they still have a chance to do that over the next 2 weeks. If they can win the next 2 games,
they'll probably get north of 500 these next 2 games, to your point.
There's an opportunity to do it. If they don't, it's just like season over. Like, I just don't think they're not a playoff team. If they can't win both of these next 2 games, and because they're already in a hole, and if you lose like one of these next 2 very winnable games, then I just don't think they're making the post. They might already not make the postseason, especially because the schedule's going to get tougher. And you failed to bank a win here, where not the easiest game. You're 3.5 point underdogs on the road. It's not like you were expected to win, but still,
that's like nothing. I mean, that's
they weren't competitive, like you said.
No, yeah, I agree with that, obviously. So a couple things here. One, again, all these metrics and measurements are valuable. People have their favorite statistics and whatnot. DVOA is a very vogue one. I don't say that dismissively. I love DVOA, but Aaron Schatz actually responded to me on Threads. Shout out to Threads. I've seen you threadsing. He said, by DVOA, this would be the worst Dallas defense since 1978.
Wow.
So they actually went to the Super Bowl that year in 1970. So, but just that speaks to the climate of the NFL in 1978 more than it does anything else. So the other thing I'm going to bring up, I want it to be understood. This is not bragging. I don't think this is cool. It's my job to tell you in Cowboys fans and Eagles fans information about the Dallas Cowboys. You are about to be so overwhelmed with the Cowboys. I don't think that Eagles fans realize this. They are about to be center stage in your life. And what they do in it is obviously going to be subject to incredible chatter about their success or opportunity to throw more tomatoes at them. So 7 of their next 8 games starting this week on Monday Night Football are either in prime time or major windows like Thanksgiving. And every single one of the NFL's major network broadcast partners is going to get a piece. Like this is sweep season or whatever you want to call it in television. So they play on Monday Night Football this week against the Commanders. I'm sorry, against the Cardinals. That's on ESPN. And then they're on their bye, but then they play on Monday Night Football again. Back-to-back Monday Night Football games. That second one is in Las Vegas. They come out of that second Monday Night Football game. Both of those are on ESPN and play the Eagles on Sunday afternoon, that afternoon window. On Fox. It's going to be America's Game of the Week. It's going to be like one of 3 games on. Nobody's going to care about the other 2. It's going to get 1 billion people watching it. Then they're on Thanksgiving, which is not prime time, but an afternoon window and the most watched regular season game of the year every year. That's on CBS. So CBS gets their cut. They come out of Thanksgiving and they're on Amazon Prime in Detroit, taking on the Lions. So Prime Video gets their piece. They come out of Prime Video, which is a primetime game, and they're on Sunday Night Football against the Minnesota Vikings. So now NBC has gotten their piece. Then they host the Chargers in just a rinky-dink Sunday noon kickoff game, whatever, no big deal. But then they're on Christmas Day, which is a Thursday, in case anybody forgot this year, and visiting the Commanders on Netflix. So NBC, CBS, Fox, Prime Video, Netflix, ESPN, all get a massive, massive, massive Cowboys game. All of these, except for that Chargers game and the Eagles game, but effectively the Eagles game is a isolated island game. They are all the only game going on at that moment in time. So you are going to have the Cowboys on your screen for most of the next 2 months.
Could be embarrassing if they don't get it together at all. And I will say, and this is funny, I think you're thinking about the Cowboys' approach to the trade deadline right. It is just funny how stark of a contrast the tone was like last week. I feel like it was like, Dak's having this great season. You got to push your chips in. You have the ammo. Do it. I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying.
No, it was the chance like that. Yeah. That's why it was the litmus test.
They didn't earn it. Yeah, they didn't earn the right to be more aggressive in the trade market.
If you had gone toe to toe with one of the better teams in the NFL, then it justifies going all in. But by not even, and if you had lost closely, there would be some coping involved, but it would still be a matter of like, well, see, you're this close. But to be so far away on a day where it didn't even feel like Denver tried that hard, and you were healthy and the vibes and all that stuff. I mean, like, it just underscores that you have no business going all in. But the fear is that they are going to chase relevancy like they did, if you want to call it that, with the Jonathan Mingo trade last year. Now, the Max Crosby trade, hypothetical trade, still checks both boxes. It makes you competitive now, and it helps you in the future because he's under contract through the 2029 season for all intents and purposes. But like Trey Hendrickson made some sense last week. That no longer makes any sense. That would be stupid. I would be really mad. I mean, although unless it was for like a 3rd round pick, I would not care. But more often than not, in terms of hypotheticals, a Trey Hendrickson type deal or anything along those lines would be stupid.
Well, I don't think the Cowboys have their 3rd round pick, right? From the Pickens trade.
They don't. That's true. That's correct.
But yeah, I get your point. And so that's exactly the opposite of what I want to see. I do want to see the Cowboys make a trade that is about trying to maximize this season, because I think it's kind of a lost cause, relatively speaking. So I really do hope they do that at the trade deadline and push their chips in and kind of overpay for someone who doesn't necessarily help them out so much in the long term.
So last thing on the Cowboys, just
one thing too on the Broncos game too, I just wanted to say real quick because I wanted to add it earlier. Also, we talked about the Broncos were like primed potentially for an emotional letdown after that huge comeback against the Giants. That's another reason why I think it's really embarrassing that they just didn't play better.
every Broncos person I spoke to last week was worried that there was going to be this
right.
just come down from the incredible run or whatever it was. Bread Eclipse asks who the hell put the Cowboys on primetime against the Cardinals and Raiders back-to-back weeks? The NFL. You can be mad about it and annoyed, and they may not be very good, but they're going to do the dumbest numbers that you've ever seen. Like that's who they are. But there has been so much discussion about how the Cowboys are playing zone defense all the time, Matty Bethus, whatever. Shout out to my guy, Bobby Belt from 105.3 The Fan. He just noted this, right now, that in the first 3 quarters, before everything got out of hand in garbage times, I think that's valuable information. The Cowboys, through the first 3 quarters, only played man on 4 snaps through the first 3 quarters. Like, what are you doing, man? I mean, like, no pun intended. Like, what? This is just not working. They're playing so soft, so off. And at one point in time, Jim Nantz said in the second half, the Broncos were averaging over 9 yards a carry. And it wasn't like he said that in the second quarter, like they'd had 2 possessions and one of them was an 80-yard run or something. You know what I mean? Like there was serious sample size there, and they were averaging over 9 yards a carry. It's dumb.
I have one question for you. Let's say Jerry Jones gave you the power to make one move. It could be one move. You can only make one move. You can make one move to and you're trying to save the Cowboys season, which you might think it's not worth saving. But let's just say that's your job. It's your job to help save the Cowboys season, and you can make one move. What are you trying to do if he gave you that one move?
I think you got to use, at this moment in time, the Packers pick is 31st, which is just hilarious, obviously. So you've got to use that pick and some other decorative ammunition, and you got to go get Max Crosby. That's the only big-time trade that makes sense because it helps you now. It helps you in the future. It makes the Micah thing, which is just so annoying still, and I'm not here to talk about it, but it makes that a little better. It doesn't justify the process by any stretch, and it keeps your pick, which, again, I talked about last week. Like, what would you do? Which one would you trade? Like, would you bet on yourself? It's kind of crazy that they would probably want to keep theirs. You know what I mean? That's a weird awkward hedge. But that would be the goal. That would be the focus, is you've got to find a way to get Max Crosby and keep your first round pick. You got to get rid of that Green Bay one because you were dumb. You made them even better, and they're probably going to be in the NFC Championship.
Might have to make it conditional, honestly, to get it done. Like a team might, say, hey, give us the more favorable pick of yours, because they could probably do that. And
if you do, fine, but I mean, you've got to have.
Oh, there's a lot of downside there. Right. Things bottom out.
That's the focus. That's one of two options. Either go get Max Crosby or do nothing. That would be truly how to fix things. Like you've got to do nothing. You've got to take your medicine, and you've just got to be chill. And the other thing is I also, if it's my job, to your point, and I don't mean to keep having this argument over and over again, but I have to know right now what's going to happen with George Pickens. Are you going to extend him the moment the offseason begins? Because if you're going to do that, if you're going to extend him in, I don't even want to say the earliest possible window because we're already past that. But if you're going to do that, okay, fine. It's still going to be done in a less efficient manner than it could have been done, but at least you're not going to play your standard stupid games. But if you're going to play the stupid game that you always play, then trade him now. And I don't want them to trade George Pickens. Let me be very clear. But those things serve contradicting goals. If you're just going to ride it out and then drag it out and tag him or whatever, that's dumb. That's accomplishing nothing. And that's kicking this can down the road still and contaminating more and more and more of the future.
Should we get to the Washington Commanders, my favorite team here of the 2025 season, who, they were just going to pick right up where they left off last season. Nothing is wrong, Adam Peters, with building your roster with the oldest in the NFL by far, but the oldest, not only the oldest NFL in the NFL roster this year, but also the oldest in years that they assembled. And guess what? A lot of those players, including Laramie Tunsil, who they traded for, are injured. Obviously, you can't forecast the Jaden Daniels injury, but you can wonder about how his frame, which is slight, and how he runs around. That is certainly something that could happen. So ultimately, I can't say I'm shocked that the Commanders are regressing like this, but man, it's pretty bleak because not only are you 3-5, but you have the Seahawks and the Lions up next, and you're staring 3-7 right in the face. And I've seen some Commanders fans on Hogs Haven talk in the comments about how hey, we need to build through the draft. Great. Where are your draft picks? Oh, that's right. You traded them for these old players that aren't going to be part of your future. They obviously have more than none at all. sorry, it's entirely barren, but they don't have what? I think a second and a fourth this year because they traded for Tunsil, who maybe around for the long term. And obviously this past draft, they only had what 5 picks, like they had a very small draft class. And that hasn't been amazing so far. So I think it's possible that they kind of they eat their humble pie from this offseason and they get it right this offseason and they make moves that are built towards the long term. At the same time, you burned a year of Jaden Daniels' rookie contract, and that's very valuable, and you lost that advantage. So it's not like you get even if they start moving in the right direction after this offseason, like there is a cost to be paid for not totally capitalizing on that.
I still stand by. I don't fault them.
Well, you're wrong
for their approach.
How can you not look at the team?
No,
it's exactly what I said.
They tried. Like, what would have been better? I mean,
to think about the long-term health.
Okay, but you have never offered this. I actually offered that a trade for George Pickens would have made more sense. So you have yet to come up with anything on your own that would.
I'm not looking at every NFL move, but
okay,
I know they're out
you're
there.
challenging people to fix the tush push, but you have no answer whatsoever as far as what Washington should have done. You only have.
So there's no players who could have been available.
I offered you. I actually answered the question. So
it's also not just about players who were moved. It's also you could come up with offers to get players.
My point is maybe their evaluation was based a bit more on optimism than reality. I don't fault them for that. I understand why they did what they did. I think I agree with you to some level that some taking of medicine, eating of humble pie needs to happen. But they didn't make any like massive financial commitments. They did squander some draft capital and they tried. And that, again, I would rather have that. I would rather swing and miss than do nothing, to be very, very, very clear here. Now, the fact that they're doing nothing is troublesome. I think the most troublesome thing is that Jaden Daniels, you mentioned burning a year of him. He has invited these questions now, and it's not his fault that he's injury prone. He has, I think the RG3 stuff, and we talked about it last week, like no one needs to get crazy, but he has like that's a sensitive topic and a sensitive memory for Washington fans. And so they can't help but be spooked. That's your standard inclusion of the word spook in a Halloween themed episode, because you've got to do that in the content creation business. So they're spooked by that memory, by that, idea, that experience. That's the most worrisome thing, because now you don't know what to build, because you may build around Jaden Daniels and then get to next season and he's still hurt. And then what are you going to do? Like, that's a really tough spot to be in. You can't fully trust him. And and I would offer, like, when is he, this is not a massive criticism of him, but when has he really played well this year? He's one of the only quarterbacks.
No, actually not at all, really, right?
Yeah, like he's one of the only quarterbacks who has not dominated the Cowboys defense. Like, think about that. I mean, and I don't mean to make everything out of that one game, that one performance, because Jalen Hurts didn't either, although he ran all over them, didn't really have to dominate them through the air. So like, this context is always necessary, but he did not exactly tear them up the way that even Caleb Williams did or Bryce Young did, and so that
Caleb Williams over Jaden Daniels maybe now.
Also, by the way, seeing Bears fans be like, "What happened to Caleb?" We told you. we told you then what happened. Like, he got to play this defense, and so like next week, I don't have any beef with the Broncos, but like Broncos fans might be like, "What's going on? Like, why isn't it working anymore?" I wonder why, guys. But anyway, I feel bad for them. I feel bad because what they've seen so far is conviction in the fear that last year was just a flash in the pan. Yes. It's hard to not feel that way right now when evaluating this team.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really big offseason for Adam Peters to get things back on track, to show he has more of a long-term plan, because he will have to. He obviously can't just do what he did again this offseason. So it's a really big, and he's kind of like, to this point, I think it was kind of like a do no wrong kind of situation where, like, Commanders fans understandably are so excited about the new direction of the franchise, and you hate your other GMs in the past so much and ownership so much that you give them this honeymoon period. But that's clearly ending here. I think now I'm seeing a lot of like, well, maybe Adam Peters actually is not above criticism. So, yeah.
Are we ready to move on to the New York Giants?
As I said, yeah, it's a tough stretch here coming up for the Commanders. So Things might be getting worse.
We'll predict games in a little bit. That's the next part of this show. I don't know if you recognize that 170, almost 4 episodes in. But the New York Giants lost to the Eagles, obviously, and lost Cam Skattebo. And it felt like they maybe had a chance before then, but that just kind of took all the wind out of their sails. Again, from my perspective, I wasn't watching the game as closely as you were, and I don't mean that in a discrediting way to Philadelphia, but we're going to find out now who Jackson Dart is. Like, if he can, I don't know of a as influential of a running back from like a team culture standpoint. Like they had really bought in, and it makes me very proud as a Sun Devil, but I mean, really bought into who they were and could be because of him. I don't know that Jackson Dart has that much juice on his own. Again, we're going to find out here, and it's difficult to overcome that mid game. I'm not going to fault them for that. Like the shock of it all. They looked okay at times in this game against Philadelphia, but Again, I feel like the emotion might be it's a little bit of same old with the way this game ultimately went.
I'm intrigued by Dart. I think he's going to be good. I don't know if he can stay healthy, which I don't think he's going to be able to stay healthy because, number one, he runs incredibly recklessly. Mm-hmm. And I think over the course of time, as he matures as both a human and a player, he will, rein that in a bit. But for now, it's, I would say, pretty concerning. And also, he holds onto the ball for a long time. And that has value. You can extend plays, make some pretty good plays like he did in this game. Can also cause a lot of sacks, which the Eagles had their team high or their season high in sacks this season with not a great pass rush with 5. So I'm intrigued by Dart. I think I feel more intrigued about like him ever than I did with Daniel Jones there.
Sure.
I think he does have juice, not only in terms of his ability, but as like a personality. I think he gives that team a zest, if you will. So intrigued by Dart, but it's just they're not in a good spot. It's another probably lost season. Dable's got to go. I think it would be a big mistake it'd be very much a false positive if the Giants can string some wins together here and they keep Dable. Obviously, you would like that from the standpoint of if Dart's looking good, but if they keep Dable, man, like what are we doing?
I think he's gone. You got to get rid of him and Joe Shane. Although that again puts, like we talk about with Chicago all the time, your quarterback not on the same timeline as your head coach and general manager. Mm-hmm. But at least you've kind of established that Dart is the guy, so you feel somewhat good about that. But yeah, you got to move on. I have a take about the Giants or their Giants fans. I think Giants fans should be more outraged now about the way Daniel Jones is playing for Indianapolis than they should have been or were last year about the way that Saquon was playing for Philadelphia. Now, Saquon was phenomenal. Like, this isn't about that, but he was also benefiting from the structure around him. Like the Colts have been this joke, you know what I mean? And it's not just like, they also have Jonathan Taylor. Like, so there's a little bit of like the same kind of thing here, but
it's like the Daniel Jones 2022 season.
Right. And so like, and I do think some of it is softened by having Jackson Dart. I also think there's a little bit of callous built up because you already went through that emotion last year with Saquon. But that, like, if I was a Giants fan, a little piece of me would be like, this kind of sucks. I mean, like watching him lift up the Indian, I don't know, but like they could be the 1 seed. I mean,
absolutely. No, I've said there's no reason to doubt that Colts team until they give you a reason to.
And so it really, if anything, all of everything thrown into one gazpacho, a word you taught me.
Gumbo.
All of that thrown in, the Saquon 2024 year, the Jones 2025 year, what we've seen from the Giants for the last few years, it underscores Dable's got to go. Joe Shane's got to go. Like, the evaluation and coaching happening here is clearly not working in a way that it can and is elsewhere. And it makes you wonder what is the ceiling for Jackson Dart and Cam Skattebo when he's back, when you have proper leadership in place.
Yeah. And I wonder if they would get rid of both. I don't really Shane. Okay, good job to get Dart, I guess, but
they were dumb. It would be dumb to keep one because they were a package deal. That was their thing. They came from Buffalo together.
I think it's dumb that they've made it this far. It's kind of insane, quite frankly. But here we are, and it's almost like if you're going to bring him back for this year,
we're doing this show on Tuesday, and Tuesday morning, I know you were busy, but there was a report from Jordan Schultz that Kayvon Thibodeau was on the trade market. Yeah. And 20 minutes ago in real time for us, Mike Garafolo came out and tweeted that he spoke to a few teams. His tweet says, I spoke to a few teams that reached out to the Giants on Kayvon Thibodeau, and they've been told there's no interest in trading him. Thibodeau is under contract through next season after the team picked up his 5th-year option, and they intend on having him in 2026. This whole thing reads like Thibodeau wants out. And why wouldn't he? Although Abdul Carter hasn't like just taken the NFL by storm quite yet. It certainly could happen still. But we don't really like Kayvon Thibodeau here. Like I know we're not like his biggest fans. If I was a Giants fan, again, you better not trade him. Like from the perspective of I don't want you around in the future, so I don't want you messing this up for the future GM and future head coach. I want to understand what they think of Kayvon Thibodeau, not what you think. I really don't care anymore what you think.
I would be okay if I'm the Giants with trading him.
Also, Reddit Clips brings up Xavier McKinney. That's another great point. Another great example. So, like, that
was an insane player to not resign. He was like 24.
Okay, but to the Xavier McKinney, Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones point, why are you going to trust Joe Shane and Brian Dable to be like, yeah, we're good on Kayvon Thibodeau?
I don't trust them, but I think I need ownership to be involved in this and like signing off on this basically. But one of the biggest mistakes they did make with Saquon was not trading him, like keeping him, because there had multiple seasons there where they were like bad, and they clearly, ultimately it wasn't like they were a lock to re-sign him. So why not try to get some value for him instead of just wasting him and keeping him? That was the biggest mistake I think they made with Saquon. Ultimately, is not trading him. So I think it could be a mistake here to not get value for Thibodeau, who I think they're not going to resign. I would think with Brian Burns and Abdul Carter there, unless they want to pay all 3. If they want to pay him, sure, then keep him. But if they're not going to pay him, then you absolutely have to trade him here.
That's my George Pickens argument. I mean, so I agree with like have a plan and stick to it. I also think my answer is subject to change if the pass rush market does develop the way it's been reported that it might. Like if these pass rushers are going to go for a lot right now, that market will change in the offseason, right? Like it may not be as, who knows what, like, I don't know, Buffalo's willing to pay. That's a bad example. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm curious. Like, so you may have to strike while the iron is hot is my point.
Yeah, I think the trade deadline market is probably the best market you'll get.
Are we ready to make our picks for week 9?
Yep. The Eagles are in their bye week, so no game for them.
So can you explain how we do this for the new people?
Well, it is for the new people, as opposed to talking about the NFC least, except for the Eagles at the top. In division order, we talk about these games in chronological order. Again, I said no game for the Eagles, so they're on their bye. That puts us where? Who's first?
The New York Giants. We have 3 different windows here, and 2 different days. So the New York Giants are at noon on Sunday, 1:00 Eastern in that dumb time zone. They are home and they host the San Francisco 49ers. Niners coming off a loss to the Texans. Stats has had a rough kind of 10 days with the Mariners losing and everything. So I texted him about that, and he said that loss, the Game 7 ALCS loss, that hurt him more than the 2023 Super Bowl.
Wow.
And then
I didn't expect that.
I wasn't a great friend because I said, oh, the one where Kyle Shanahan didn't know the overtime rules. So he wasn't pleased. But
that's crazy though, because that's just a chance to get to the World Series versus
I think some of it is like
winning a championship. When
you consider that Stats has seen the Niners from a like adult standpoint in 3 Super Bowls, right?
Yeah.
3.
Well, yeah. 2 with Shanahan, 1 with Harbaugh.
Yeah. So granted, they lost all of them, but so he's kind of been there, done that. Versus the Mariners have never been to the World Series.
Fair.
So like I kind of get it, but
anyway, the Giants are 2.5-point home favorites, which
no, home dogs.
Sorry, home dogs. Yes, at MetLife. How do you feel about this?
I don't trust the Giants whatsoever.
Do you trust the Niners?
Yeah, I trust the Niners coming back. And last week was rough against Houston, but I mean, you can only make it work with Mac Jones the way they were making it work for so long. Like you're going to run into some bumps, and you run into someone who knows you well, and D'Amico Ryan's like, I'm willing to kind of say like, okay, that's a one-time thing. So I will definitely, I know I do a hit in Australia every week. That's a real thing.
Wow.
With Jimmy Smith.
Home of Super Bowl champion Jordan Mailata.
By the way, I'm not going to pick Valerie, but I wanted to because I saw that video of him singing. What an angelic voice! I mean, my word,
like, he is like not just like a good singer for a football player. He is just flat out like a good singer.
And that's a really hard song to sing. And I mean, wow,
it is unfair for him to be that good at football and good at singing as well.
Yeah. But anyway, so I do a lock of the week with Jimmy Smith in Australia. And I locked up the Niners last week because I was like, oh, I'm getting a point. And like, this is easy. And so I felt really bad about that. But I only have to lay 2.5 for San Francisco because it's the Giants. So I'll go ahead and do so.
I don't feel amazing about it. The Giants are pretty banged up, I will say. And it does seem like I was really curious to see how that loss to the Broncos, how they'd respond to that in terms of we're fired up, we're mad about how we blew that game, or like, oh crap, like we're bad. And like we can't get over that. It's taking a toll on us. It's wearing on us. And I think it's clearly the latter. So yeah, they're banged up. I think they've kind of lost some of their confidence. They've lost some of their personality, their edge with Skattebo being out. So 49ers have just been so banged up, but I guess they'll be able to take advantage of a bad Giants defense and win.
In the chat, somebody says that RJ can't make an argument for water being wet, but their name is Burr, which reminds me of the icebox. That was a good time.
If the icebox melts, then you get a lot of water at that point.
That's true. The Washington Football Bowl is happening on Sunday Night Football.
Correct.
The Seattle Seahawks.
Washington football team versus the original Washington football team.
The Seattle Seahawks visiting the Washington Commanders, and the Seahawks are 3.5-point favorites coming off their bye.
That seemed like
the short week. So stupid. I mean, we've said this before. Like it happened to the Raiders, right, against the Commanders, I think. And so that is so dumb. That's so unfair. That why does that have to happen all the time? It's ridiculous. But I mean, whatever.
I guess they try to mitigate it a little bit by putting it as the Sunday night game. But I mean, the Seahawks team, like
they're 3.5-point favorites. I don't know if I said it. So yeah. Kind
of like I've been saying about I think I have the Colts like number 4 in my power rankings. I have the Seahawks are right below them at number 5. Because a lot of and I was like kind of reluctant to move the Seahawks up there at first, but I was like, I'm using a lot of the same logic with the Colts here. I should just have to apply that to the Seahawks as well. Like where until they give me more reason to doubt them, I'm not going to. They're the number 1 team by DVOA. They have one of the best point differentials in the NFL. Do I think they're definitely going to win the Super Bowl? No, because I don't trust Sam Darnold in the playoffs. But right now in the regular season, I think Mike McDonald is a good coach. And that defense is playing well, and they seem to have something going for them. And coming off the extra rest and going up against a Commanders team, which I saw, by the way, I haven't seen anything official, but I did see on Hog Saban that Jane Daniels might also miss this game as well. So, and even if he does come back, maybe he's not 100%. I am going to have to give the points here and take the Seahawks.
Yeah, I don't think that we are talking enough about anything Seattle related. You mentioned Mike McDonald. I think you said Mike McDaniel. Understandable.
No, I said Mike McDonald.
I don't think you did. But he's, I mean, I don't know who coach of the year is right now, but I mean, Mike McDonald's got a legit claim. I feel like
Shane Steichen's probably gonna
DVOA, them being number 1 in DVOA, like all feels right in the world when the Seahawks they're the DVOA team. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. They've always been even in their peak run. They were
right. But to that point, I also we talk a lot about things we trust or don't trust. I kind of trust Seahawks' ultimate leadership because they said we're ready to move on from Russell Wilson. They were proven to be right. They said we're really ready to move on from Pete Carroll. They were proven to be right. I mean, so when they're ready, think of all the members of the Legion of Boom when they moved on from what I know Earl Thomas had that season with Baltimore, but I mean that was a lot of Lamar just kind of storming onto the scene. So what have they messed up on? I mean, everything they kind of touch turns to gold in a lot of ways, and so they deserve full benefit. Jackson Smith-Njigba is awesome. I mean, he has a Cowboys tattoo. He's a friend of Blogging the Boys. I interviewed him a few years ago, so he's really cool. Yeah, I'll take the Seahawks. I'll take all the overs on JSN, and I'll take the Commanders to fall to 3-6 losers.
Tough scene for them. And that brings us to the Dallas Cowboys.
They will. So the Cowboys are hosting the Arizona Cardinals. They are 3-point favorites. Standard home points. That's it.
The Cardinals coming off their bye.
Yep. So
Jonathan Gannon.
And Jonathan Gannon, the I know I told you this last week, but the Broncos kind of own the Cowboys. They have now won 8 in a row against them. They haven't lost to Dallas since 1995. The Cardinals have beaten the Cowboys in 7 of their last 8 games they faced off against one another. So it's kind of a weird
one.
Yeah, it's a weird. The last Cowboys win against Arizona was actually a Monday night game. They have lost a Monday night game to them as well since then. So this is a third Monday night game since 2008 between these two teams, which is weird. Former NFC East rivals, obviously, as you well know. I am going to lay the points for the Cowboys. I'm going to take them. I don't feel great about it, but I do think they'll win these next 2 games. And some of that about the Raiders in 2 weeks changes. There's a lot of time between now and then, but they're going to beat them up, and then they're going to walk tall. They will, of course, be a perfect 500 at 4-4-1 this season. That's how this is going to end. They're going to finish 8-8-1. They, like in a world with 17 games, they are going to have found a way to be 500 once again because Dak Prescott is living his Tony Romo early Jason Garrett days. Like history has finally fully repeated itself.
The Cardinals actually have the second best DVOA of any 2-win team. Number 1 is the Ravens, obviously, the Lamar Jackson factor in there. So there is some reason to believe they are like a little bit better than their record says they are. I think that's fair to say. They also have just a -1 point differential despite being 2-5. So they've lost 5 in a row. They played games close. Ultimately, though, I will say, as I mentioned Jonathan Gannon earlier, famously, Jonathan Gannon can beat the bad quarterbacks, the ones who don't have a chance. Any quarterback with a remote of a pulse, he does typically did not fare well against, specifically struggled against Dak Prescott in the past when he was the Eagles defensive coordinator. So I really don't like giving either of these teams the benefit of the doubt, but the Cowboys are at home where they've played their best football this year, fair to say. And I don't trust Gannon. So I'm going to take the Cowboys -3.
Gannon was famously the Eagles defensive coordinator on the T.Y. Hilton 3rd and 30 conversion against Darius Slay. So you're right about that. 2 final notes here. One, this is a bit of a revenge game, depending on which angle you look at it from. Clayton Adams, Cowboys offensive coordinator, came from Arizona, and their run game has really struggled. And last week, obviously not as a good example, but for the most part, Cowboys run game has really thrived and flourished under Clayton Adams. So do the Cardinals feel revenge for him leaving? Does he feel revenge?
I don't think this is a big storyline.
But an actual storyline, and prepare to hear this. This is going to get Matthew Stafford, Clayton Kershaw, Little League levels of pub. Kyler Murray, for anyone who's unaware, is 9-0 in AT&T Stadium.
Wasn't he making fun of the Cowboys too, like this past offseason?
No, that was I think 3 off seasons ago. So the 9-0 thing includes high school state championships. Obviously, played high school football in Texas, a Big 12 championship while at Oklahoma after transferring from Texas A&M, and has won every game there that he's played as a professional. What you're talking about was he was somewhere. It was like I don't know if it was like Fanatics, but some kind of like card collecting event, and he was on camera, and he was, given his age, he was asked and where he grew up and where he's from, why he didn't root for the Cowboys growing up, and he said, these are his words, that they were always ass, and so
got him.
That was why he didn't. So, but he's cashed that check every time he's had an opportunity to. So 9-0 in the building again across all levels of football. And the Cardinals have won 7 of 8. Yeah, that's but we're both taking the Cowboys. Last thing, because we didn't touch on this, and then we'll do songs. The Eagles are getting Monsters Inked.
Oh, on the Chargers game on Monday Night Football? Yeah. I only saw that last night. Really
so we had the Simpsons game last year. It's fun. Yes. It's cool.
I mean, I won't be able to like enjoy that. I'm
not that's why I said we. It was the Cowboys Bengals game, and so it was hectic, but it was a little bit of fun and cool. Like
there's no reason not to do it. I don't care. It's not no one. What's the reason not to do it?
Monsters Inc. is okay. It's not top 5 Pixar movies for me.
Yeah, I like enjoyed watching them, but I don't go back to them.
The second one is just whatever. Are you ready to do songs?
Yeah.
So I am going to give a shout out to an app as I pick my song. I was at dinner with my wife and son last weekend, and there was a song that came on, and I was like, oh, this is a great song. And I have long thought that Shazam does not get the credit it deserves as an app. Like to be able to like just be like, I want to know what this song is. is an underrated thing, like, problem to be able to solve in an instant.
Especially in the days of like how early that came out relative to like what we have with AI today.
Right,
That was like ahead of its time. Felt
I
like.
vividly remember I had a friend, his name was Shane, and there was a song by Jay Sean called "Do You Remember" that I really loved. And I had heard it in the car driving to Shane's house, and when I got in there, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I love this song!" It was just on the radio. I don't know what it's called, and all I could remember, which was wrong, was that the word "butterflies" was in it. And he was like, "What?" And nobody could help me, and I was wrong, which serves the point. Like, I needed Shazam to know that was the song. So I Shazammed this song, and I knew it was this artist when I did. Her voice is beautiful. This song is called "I Get It" by Meghan Trainor. Has a nice, like, fun, lively energy to it. So I believe it is Megan's first appearance on the playlist.
I was just listening to the playlist before the Eagles game on Sunday because I wanted something to listen to while I was doing some writing in the press box, and I couldn't decide on a band or anything specific to listen to. So I'm like, oh, let me throw the playlist on. And I was pretty happy with it because it was a good, interesting mix of different songs. But
the mixtape, not really the playlist. Like, you threw on the actual mixtape.
I threw the actual mixtape on. And even though it's a lot of different directions, I thought it still worked. I thought it was interesting, jarring sometimes. You're not used to it, but it's still. I wasn't like, oh, I have to turn this off. I was liking it. So make sure you listen to that, especially if you're on Apple Music, where it's definitely updated. I don't know if it's still updated on Spotify or not, but if not, there is one that still exists on Spotify if it is outdated. My song pick, I have one that I wanted to do, but I wanted to do a Halloween one before Halloween passes. So I'm going to save that for the future. But for today, I was weighing which one I wanted to pick. And ultimately, I'm going to go with, it's not like a Halloween song in terms of something that like the Monster Mash is, like so clearly directly. But it's actually on the Halloween Essentials playlist on Apple Music. And it's close enough. I'm going to say Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult. Really good song. Cool guitar. And it counts. So
by Blue Oyster Cult.
Blue Oyster Cult. Don't Fear is in parentheses. It's technically called the Reaper.
When you were and the Don't Fear is in front in parentheses. Normally the parentheses are trailing.
Yeah. I think they usually do that because like the artists name it a certain thing, and then the label is like, no, you need to put like some of those keywords in the title.
When you were describing, like when you were painting the picture of what you were going to choose, the song I thought you were going to choose was I think it's called Touch Me from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. That song kind of reminds me of Halloween.
I did consider the Rocky Horror Picture. I did the Time Warp. I did consider
Time Warp's that's probably the better choice. Yeah,
that was my other thought, but I just didn't. Maybe next year.
Yeah, I was also gonna do Valerie next week, but now I can't.
Nice.
Now I'd be lame. So no, I'm not gonna do it. So
wow.
I don't think it's just something to bookmark for you because I won't do it. I don't think we have any of the Eagles O-line Christmas album songs. So
I think I tried to add one time. Did I not put that on there? I don't think so. That's something I would do. I'm gonna check it out while you come up with a closing to the podcast.
Well, I am gonna eat some lunch.
I did add White Christmas by
White Christmas is such an underrated Christmas song in general. Like if you get the right singer, it can
I added that on there.
Okay. Well, the cooler weather's coming. My take generally to kind of cover everything we've talked about, holidays and whatnot, if you can wear a hoodie, like you have got no issue in life, is my point. Although Brandon's doing something, I don't have a lot of those. You have a zip up hoodie. Does that classify as a hoodie?
Yeah. I usually don't have zip ups. This is one I do. It has a nice little lining too, nice and warm. Because the cool weather has already been here for a bit. Wanted to shout out my friend Abby and TJ and their two dogs here as I hold this.
Yeah, don't dox them either.
There's no ad.
It looks like TJ's wearing some sort of,
but
it looks like TJ's wearing some sort of pilot goggles.
I think it's
in the picture.
It's Rescue Rangers, like Chip and Dale.
Oh, very cool.
But it's if you can't, it says Happy Holidays on the at the bottom,
and then it says Halloween.
Halloween counts.
Yeah, and then there's some little ghosts and whatnot. Okay,
some ghost.
Let's as we leave because we have to do this. Your top 2, let's limit it. Halloween candies.
Ooh.
These are commonly found at Halloween.
Yeah,
Nothing
not just like
too-
any candy
right.
ever.
I'll go first because I want to.
Yeah.
Reese's peanut butter cups.
I mean, yeah.
And
But specifically the pumpkin one.
no, I don't like
Yeah.
pumpkin anything.
No, like not pumpkin flavor, but the pumpkin shape.
I really don't care about
It's
that.
Halloween.
No, I don't care. And then I'll go Kit Kats. Give me a Kit Kat. I'm good with that.
I think what I would like to see, if I got some Halloween candy. I love Sour Patch Kids. So even though it's just a little pack, I mean, usually you got to get the whole box, but I'm happy with that. And then I need a chocolate too. I'm gonna go Three Musketeers.
Three Musketeers is pretty good. Doesn't get a lot of love. You know what sucks? Almond Joy. Nobody.
I don't think Three Musketeers is the best chocolate bar, to be clear, but sometimes I just like that's how often I want Three Musketeers is maybe like once a year, and for Halloween that would be great. And my dad's boss shout out to my dad's boss used to get me a Three Musketeers for Halloween every year, and that's why it's in my head.
Get you a Three Musketeers.
Yeah, he would get me full size. I think he would do it for all like the his workers who had kids. He would get them all like a full size candy bar.
So this person like loved Three Musketeers.
No, I don't think so. It's just they would give the kids different things. For some reason, he thought I liked that.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. Like
it wasn't he would give it to every kid. He would give different candy bars out, but he would for some reason
that makes a little bit more sense. That it was like a random mix, and that was your draw, but on a weirdly consistent basis. But like it sounded for a second that he was like, no, there's 7 kids from the office workers, so I'm gonna make sure that I have 7 Three Musketeers. I'm gonna have 21 Musketeers, basically.
I mean, maybe he did. I don't know that for sure. I'm guessing he didn't, though.
Maybe he's like an heir to the Musketeers' fortune.
Probably yes. Yes, that is definitely safe to assume. Twix is also really good too. I probably regret not.
Twix is great, but you didn't choose it, so it
in the fun size specifically. That's like a good fun size candy bar.
That's what I thought about Kit Kat because I won't even break them. I'll just take a bite out of the 2.
Give me a break.
Kit Kat. As we leave, Brandon, please tell us the names of the original Three Musketeers.
Dang, it's what's it? Donna something. I don't know. What are they? Three Musketeers, real names. I can't say
D'Artagnan. D'Artagnan,
yeah,
is that correct?
It. And then I'm seeing like a bunch of different options for Three Musketeers.
So I know
D'Artagnan's the big one.
Oh, I wouldn't have known their D'Artagnan.
That's who I was trying to say.
Aramis and Porthos. I think that kind of sounds right. So I'm shout out D'Artagnan. How about that? Can you give us a shout out to one of the Musketeers? Eagles Girl. Eagles Girl has the answer. So Arthos, Porthos, and D'Artagnan.
Shout out to Eagles Girl. 52.
Almost a fully correct spelling. D'Artagnan's a little complicated from what I'm seeing, but yeah.
Shout out to the Three Musketeers, both the candy bar and the people, I guess. See you next week.